everybody, my name is Aris. I am a clinical herbalist and biodynamic farmer. I partnered up with Lazy Acres for the month of July to highlight regenerative agriculture. And in this video, I'm going to give you some simple tips that you can incorporate into your home garden or in your life to support regenerative ag. So some of the simple tips that you can start implementing today is build compost. And there are various ways to build compost. You don't need a big garden space like mine. Oftentimes you can buy compost bins that will keep the smell in, and you can keep that in a porch or even in a balcony. But I personally love doing the biodynamic composting method, which I am actually going to show you how to build later in this video. Another tip that I like to recommend is saving seeds. So if you are growing things in your garden already, I recommend that you let some of those crops go to seed, because that is going to ensure that you have seed that is acclimated to the environment in your garden, which means that your crops are going to do better. And you can also go to seed swaps. Many places have people where they can come together and swap various types of seeds. I always find the best ones at seed swaps. Another thing that you can incorporate is becoming a CSA member. So what is a CSA? CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and it is actually born out of the biodynamic movement. And that is the type of regenerative agriculture that I practice. And by becoming a CSA member, you are creating a closer relationship between you, your food, and your farmer. Another thing that I like to recommend is doing companion planting. So plants, just like humans, there's like certain types of plants in the garden with them. One of the things that I have learned in my herbalism is that chamomile actually can be very beneficial to helping other plants heal, especially if they're sick. And you can learn more about companion planting by looking at books or even websites. Another tip that I like to recommend is doing crop rotation. So as you can see, I have tomatoes growing here, and tomatoes require a lot of nitrogen from the soil. And so in my garden next year, I am not going to plant tomatoes here. I'm probably going to find another place where they can get a lot of sun. Because if you continue to plant the same crop in the same location year after year, it can actually be harmful to the soil. Another thing that I like to recommend is doing cover cropping. So these are various types of plants that actually benefit the soil. Even though creating life takes resources, things like clover, vetch, buckwheat, oats, and various types of legumes like astragalus actually infuse the soil with things like living nitrogen. And up next, I am going to have Silvia Navas help me inoculate the biodynamic compost that I've created here.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Oh, this is so amazing. I'm excited.
Thanks. And this is a method that I learned in one of my apprenticeships. I apprenticed at Life Power Community Farm, which is a non-mechanized biodynamic farm in Mendocino County. And this is a layering technique that uses 60% carbon and 40% nitrogen. And even though it's really heavy, there's actually really good airflow in every single layer. And at the very end, I like my compost piles to come to about my hip. And before this is ready, I use what are known as the biodynamic preparations. There's a total of 9, but 6 of them are used in the compost. And I've made these little balls of compost, and I make like a little donut hole and put my thumb in the middle. I'm gonna add a little bit of each of the prep in here and seal it. These are gonna go in a hole that I've made, and each hole goes to about halfway into the compost. So would you like to add a little bit to each?
Sure.
Okay.
So once it's going, what does this help the compost do?
So the compost preps don't actually add any nutrients to the compost necessarily. What they do is they activate the compost, and I like to use just a little bit of each one. And this is just an estimate. It's not like a hard science, but you just want to get it in there and seal it. What the compost preps do is that they activate it and bring in different cosmic influences to the compost, because biodynamics works with the rhythms of the earth and the rhythm of the cosmos. And one of the things that we use is the biodynamic planting calendar. Each different preparation is made with a different plant botanical, and that is going to activate certain forces in the soil once the compost is spread. It's going to help the plants find nutrients better. It's going to help with calcium formation in the soil. It's also going to help with disease resistance. It's a form of homeopathy, but for the garden.
Definitely sounds like a very homeopathic approach.
Yeah, and biodynamics actually predates the organic movement by approximately 30 years. And in biodynamics, you want to do that one?
Mm-hmm.
GMOs are never used. The farm organism is seen as a living being with the soil, the plants, all the animals, the water, including the farmer, are all vital parts of maintaining the health of the farm. And compost is one of the foundations because it is basically helping create sustainability for the farm. A lot of farms, even organic, depend on things that are coming from South America. A lot of fertilizers actually use fossil fuels, which is not sustainable. And with biodynamics, we are encouraged to use what's around us and turn it into fertility.
That's amazing. So how often would you do this?
So once the compost pile is ready, you only inoculate it once. But you do this for every compost pile that you're making. And you can make a big one like this. You can make a little one. You can incorporate biodynamics no matter the size of your garden. And so Silvia is going to start off by...
Just put them in there?
Yeah, so you just want to go in as deep as you can without smushing the ball. And this is the Yarrow BD 502. And so once it's in, you just seal it.
Back up.
And then we do this in order. So now we're going to use 503, which is the chamomile preparation. Should we do 504? Just go as deep as you can.
Find the little hole without pushing it. Oh, there you go.
Do 505.
Fun.
And I'm going to do 506. Fill that up. And then the last preparation is actually a liquid one. And I take a gallon of water, and spring water is ideal. And it's a fermented valerian juice that is stirred for 15 minutes minimum in alternating vortexes that's activating the liquid, similar to homeopathy. And I made a wand with materials from my garden. I like to use natural things. And this is what we're going to use to spray. So you might get a little wet.
That's
I'm going to
fine.
show you how to do it.
Show me how to do it. I'm
So what I like to do is hold it, get it in there. I'm going to get you wet, Silvia. And I like to spray it above the compost. And we're gonna do that until half of the liquid is gone. And the remaining liquid is gonna go into the 6th hole.
This is actually very relaxing.
Yeah.
Feels almost therapeutic. I feel like I need to pair it with like a nice mantra or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to, especially when stirring the preps in the liquid, there's certain ones that you have to stir for an hour or so, either really early in the morning or in the evening, and it's very meditative. And even without knowing what each prep, I remember when I first got introduced to biodynamics, I didn't know much about the preps, but I learned a lot about them through the stirring process because I started to feel the energies of the prep in my own body. So it's one of the things I love about biodynamics is that it's a very intimate process with the act of farming and gardening. It takes a lot of sensitivity to know what your soil needs, to know what your plants are saying. And it's almost like a form of spiritual agriculture that is very beneficial to the plants, but also to the environment and to humanity, really. Yeah.
One of the things that we're discussing, when we were discussing about regenerative agriculture, is that this is a very mindful practice. It's also like I said, almost meditative and spiritual in a way. And the mindfulness that you have to pay to all the steps and all the things and how everything is connected is just, pretty incredible.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I think this is about halfway.
About halfway? Okay.
Yeah.
So now you can pour the remaining liquid in that 6th hole.
Go.
Perfect. And then we're going to close up the hole.
Does it need to be all the way filled up?
Yep,
Or
just covered like
Okay.
that. I like to honor the wand by putting it in the middle of the compost. And to seal the compost, I like to use unfarmed soil just to do a light sprinkling. And this is also going to help concentrate the heat. Just like a powdered sugar coating. Yeah, it's very light. Very, very light. And that's how I build and inoculate biodynamic compost. Thank you for tuning in.